David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Jason.
Okay. Who are we short?
Well, right now we have Ebony Smith and myself and Phil in here. And we have, it looks like 3 people from the defense and 6 people from the plaintiff's team here. So we have a total of 14, but 3 of us are scoring. And actually, then there's
Okay.
so we actually have the top row is all scoring people. So we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 total team members here.
None of those except us 3 are actually in the room.
Oh, really? Well, they seem to be.
They're on the participants list, but I can't see of them. I can't.
You can't see. You can't see any names. Go to the gallery view.
No, I have all the names.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. So we just added. We almost added Mark Cook. I don't know. That might be a parent. Wasn't listed for a team.
I just got a message that all the defense is here.
Yes, I think so. I think that's right. They are? Wait a minute. Let's see.
The chat, you'll see it down there.
Yep. Okay, good. Yeah. Oh, I see. I saw P1 and I thought that was plaintiff. So it might be just the defense that's all here.
Your Honor, P1 is plaintiff. I think they're saying that they're sharing computers, the defense is.
Oh, okay.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense is sharing computers, so we're all here. Thank you, Your Honor.
Great.
Okay, it looks like everybody might be here, Phil, so I'm going to mute.
We have all our scoring people present.
Dave Miliaccio present.
Ebony Smith present.
Thank you, Ebony. Well, I know Dave Miliaccio and Ebony Smith are present. Do we have any other scorers? Jason Dubois, we seem to be short 2 scorers. We've got Dave and Ebony here, but nobody else has responded when I asked.
Dave, I'm sorry. Hold on 1 second. Let me figure out where those people are. I am showing that I thought both Ebony Smith and
Yeah, Jason, Ebony and I are both here. So if Phil is scoring, we have 3 people to score. But I understood we had a 4th panelist?
You did, but I don't know what happened to her. I told her to go into this courtroom, but maybe she misunderstood or maybe she had some difficulty. But you have a panel that you can proceed with, so please get started.
Let's go.
My apologies.
All right, I will just start. My name is Phil Dubois. I am presiding in this round of competition. By way of brief introduction, I've been practicing for, let's say, no fewer than 40 years. And just pretend that my dark jacket is a judge's robe. So let me ask both sides. Plaintiff first, are you ready for trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is the defense ready for trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Let us begin by swearing the team members. Raise your right hands. Do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
So we're nodding these days. All right.
Yes, Your
enough.
Honor.
That's fine. That's fine. All right. I guess I'm supposed to separately swear witnesses, so let's do that. Do you promise that the testimony you're about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statement, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes,
Okay.
Your Honor.
Good. Thank you. Most of the process that we would typically use is irrelevant in the modern age. So let's just go. Oh, come on. All right, scoring panelists. I'm assuming your right hands are in the air. Do you promise to adjudicate the mock trial competition as fairly and objectively as possible in accordance with the facts, procedures, and rules of the mock trial competition?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. All right, let me first ask the plaintiff whether there are any preliminary matters.
Your Honor, the plaintiff does not have any preliminary matters.
Very well. Does the defense?
Your Honor, may we have permission to introduce ourselves and our witnesses to the court?
You may indeed. Go ahead. And I'll give plaintiffs the same opportunity after you're done. So go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Anna, and I direct Blake Doncourt and cross Dr. Casey Rogers. I also deliver the opening statement. At this time, my co-counsel would like to introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Melanie, and I am crossing Carson Durst and directing Skylar Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Evelyn. I cross Dakota Weirs, direct Dr. Devin Williams, and deliver the closing argument. At this time, the witnesses would like to introduce themselves.
Very well. You're muted.
Good evening, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Charles and I am Dr. Devin Williams.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Lula and I am Skylar Weirs.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury. My name is Ty and I am Blake Doncourt.
Thank you. Let's go back to plaintiff now. I didn't ask for you all to introduce yourselves, so please do so.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Abby Rubin, and I will be delivering the opening statement and directing Dakota and crossing Skylar.
Good after, good afternoon, Your Honor. My name is Matai Karuna, and I will be directing Dr. Casey Rogers and crossing Dr. Devin Williams.
Good evening, Your Honor. I am Esteban Vega. I will be doing the direct of Carson Durst, and I will be crossing Blake Downcourt, and I will also be delivering the closing statement for the plaintiff.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I'm Damian Garcia, and I will be playing the role of Dakota Weirs.
Your Honor, I'm Ani Hardesty, and I will be playing the part of Dr. Casey Rogers.
Hello, Your Honor. I am Joaquin Salinas, and I am playing Carson Durst.
Damian, I should tell you at this point that all I could see when you were on camera was from about the bridge of your nose up. So you may want to have a look at that. All right, so I think we ended with my asking the defense if there were preliminary matters. Are there any other preliminary matters for you?
No further preliminary matters, Your Honor.
Very well, thank you. Let's go ahead with the plaintiff's opening statement.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Lush Fertilizer has stolen Dakota Weir's future to make another buck. Dakota was an active member in his community, an excellent student and a piano prodigy before he developed non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Non-Hodgkin lymphoma is an uncurable cancer. The illness makes it hard to help around the house and impossible for him to play the piano, his passion. Because of this, he had to decline the Juilliard Scholarship, which was to one of the most prestigious art schools. He was exposed to Lush Fertilizer when working at his old landscaping job. Lush Fertilizer includes Darufo, a chemical linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma that is even outlawed in several other countries. Carson Durst will plead to the court about how Lush Fertilizer Corporation knew that Darufo could potentially be carcinogenic in its unbaked form. Carcinogenic risks could have been prevented by baking it, however, baking it costs more. Dr. Casey Rogers will give his testimony as an expert witness. Dr. Rogers did a study on people exposed to Darufo. He found an increase in serious health conditions, including non-Hodgkin lymphoma, to those exposed to Darufo compared to the control group. The plaintiff will have the burden of proving our claims by a preponderance of the evidence. The preponderance of evidence means to prove that it is more likely true than not. If a party fails to meet the burden of proof as to any claim, or if the evidence weighs so evenly that you are unable to say that there is a preponderance on either side, the jury must reject that claim. For the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, to recover from the defendant, Lush Fertilizer, Inc., on the plaintiff's claim of negligence, the jury must find all the following to have been proved by a preponderance of the evidence. 1, the defendant manufactured a fertilizer produced containing a chemical compound known as Darufo. 2, the defendant was negligent in failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from causing unreasonable risk of harm to persons who might have expected to use the product in a manner the defendant might have reasonably expected. 3, the plaintiff was one of those persons the defendant should have knowingly and reasonably have expected to use the product. 4, the plaintiff had damages that were caused by the defendant's negligence while the product was being used in a manner the defendant should have reasonably and knowingly expected. If the people of the jury find that any one or more of these 4 statements has not been proved, then your verdict must be for the defendant. If the people of the jury find that all 4 of these statements have been proved, then your verdict must be for the plaintiff. But you must then consider the defendant's affirmative defense of comparative fault. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Lush Fertilizer knowingly included the chemical Darufo in their products, and in doing so, stole my client's future. At the end of this case, it will be clear that Lush Fertilizer is liable for placing profits over the safety of their customers.
Good. Take about 20 seconds for the scorers to score. We have the defense opening, please.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. Sloppy, biased, and unscientific. That is the definition of pseudoscience and the reason we are all here today. The plaintiff relies on a sloppy claim, a biased employee, and an unscientific study by an alleged expert. The plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, has had the terrible disease non-Hodgkin lymphoma that has taken away their dreams and future. But they're a desperate person, and desperate people do desperate things. However, that doesn't mean Lush Fertilizers gave Dakota that disease. The plaintiff has sloppy claims, looking for the first outlet to take out their anger and confusion on. That outlet just happened to be Lush. Dakota will tell you themselves how they saw on TV about Lush's alleged carcinogenic properties and decided that would be their culprit. Dakota will also tell you how they refused to comply with both Drufo's user safety recommendation as well as their boss's own warning. Not only did Dakota neglect Drufo's safety recommendation, but they continuously declined after years of work to use protective gear, not even a basic mask. Dakota did this despite consistent warnings from their boss, even admitting that doing so differently may have prevented their cancer. Mind you, Dakota did this all while using other toxic chemicals every time they worked a shift. You'll hear from the biased witness, Carson Durst. To be quite frank, Carson is an angry ex-employee. After being fired, they want payback, and they'll make wrong claims to get that payback. Carson went to Lush's biggest competitor after being angry about being let go, even though they weren't qualified for the job at Lush in the first place. Carson almost certainly wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for his prejudice towards Blake Doncourt, CEO of Lush Fertilizers. Carson's bad blood with Blake is taking priority over the health of young woman Dakota Weirs. To keep it simple, Carson Durst is a biased witness who can't be trusted to deliver an honest testimony. Finally, you'll hear from the unscientific Dr. Casey Rogers. After being a certified expert with a degree in bugs and no education in toxicology, there simply isn't any reason to take their words seriously. Casey Rogers seems to be the only expert the plaintiff could get, as their study has so many uncontrolled variables it is rendered completely inapplicable to this case. They will also admit that they want to get into litigation and want more victims to be at the forefront of high-profile cases. These cases will provide them with notoriety and, most importantly, money. Dakota is unfortunately just a stepping stone in Dr. Casey Rogers' plans for success. Now let's talk about Lush Fertilizers witnesses. Today, you will first hear from Dr. Devin Williams, an expert witness with a degree in toxicology. Dr. Williams is a committed employee at Lush Fertilizers of over a decade. As he will tell you, Dr. Devin Williams works as a professor who consistently determines the safety of various chemicals, including Drufo. And what did he find in Drufo? Absolutely nothing. As a professional who has worked with many chemicals, including Drufo, for so many years, Dr. Williams is absolutely confident that Dakota's non-Hodgkin lymphoma was not a result of Lush. Next, you will hear from Skylar Weirs. Skylar has written about Drufo prior to Dakota's diagnosis, eliminating any possible financial bias. Skylar Weirs provides a unique perspective on the safety of Drufo as an expert working in scientific journalism. In addition, Skylar is the sibling of plaintiff Dakota Weirs, giving us unique insight. After a full year of research on Drufo from Skylar, she found, you guessed it, once again, absolutely nothing. And finally, you'll hear from Blake Doncourt, CEO of Lush Fertilizers. His expertise in the fertilizer industry and credit to the success of Lush today allows an inside perspective into the company of Lush. After so many years of building Lush Fertilizers from the ground up, it simply wouldn't make sense for Jake to jeopardize their company to produce a knowingly unsafe product. We hope that you trust in our witnesses today to deliver an honest scientific testimony proving the truth. In conclusion, the reason that this case is sloppy, biased, and unscientific is because it has no foundation to stand on. The entire case is solely based on the assumption that Drufo causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma, which has never been confirmed and has messy, thoughtless evidence behind it. Today, the plaintiff will try to tell you that Lush Fertilizers was negligent, but the only negligence in this case is the negligence from Dakota Weirs. They failed to follow safety recommendations and are now searching for a culprit to blame. The plaintiff's argument is based on sloppy claims, biased witnesses, and unscientific evidence, the definition of pseudoscience. At the end of this trial, we ask that you find in favor of the defense and find Lush Fertilizers not liable. Thank you.
Sure. Take a moment for story. May we have plaintiff's first witness?
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to call Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Well,
Please introduce yourself to the jury.
I am Dakota Weirs.
Why are you here today?
I am suing Lush Fertilizer because I believe that they are responsible for my diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
What activities did you participate in before you became sick?
Prior to my diagnosis, I was an active member of my community. I tried to do as much as I could to, help other people, volunteering, community service. I was a member of the National Honor Society, things of that nature.
Did you have any plans for your future?
I planned on attending Juilliard based on a scholarship that I received. However, due to my diagnosis, I had to kind of postpone those plans.
You mentioned that you were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. When did that happen?
I was recently diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That was after my work with Lush Fertilizer.
What are your symptoms?
I'm not really able to do any of the things that I, used to enjoy doing. Based on those symptoms, I'm in constant pain. I go through a lot of fatigue and, just general like unwelfare.
How does this affect your daily life?
Like I said, I'm not really able to do any of the things that I used to do. I can't go to the places that I want to go. I can't even sit at the piano bench without, feeling constant pain, pressure. That was like my main joy. So a lot of the things that I really like to do that kept me going, I'm not able to participate in it anymore.
How did you come in contact with Lush Fertilizer?
I worked as a landscaping technician since the age of 14. However, I'm unable to do that, obviously, because of my condition. And during that time, my main duties were spreading fertilizer and seeds. And during that time, I came into contact with Lush Fertilizer.
Were there any warning labels?
I believe that there may have been like a general warning on the bag, but nothing that hinted towards the fact that, use of the product could lead to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other severe consequences.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to show the witness Exhibit 1.
very well.
Mr. Weirs, do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
Is this an accurate representation of what was on the back of the packaging?
Yes, it is.
What are the warnings on this label?
I believe that the safety recommendations are to use protective clothing and, use a respirator and follow the manufacturer's instructions for cleaning the personal protection equipment used when, in use with Lush Fertilizer.
Did you follow the instructions on this warning label?
I may not have taken all the proper precautions that are recommended in this label.
Does this label talk about how you can develop any illnesses?
No, it does not. It does not state that use of the product could lead to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well. Cross-examination, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Weirs.
Good afternoon.
You are here today hoping to prove that Drufo has caused your development of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, correct?
Yes, I believe that Lush Fertilizer and a subsequent product that they have, Drufo, is responsible for my diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So you were sick and hoping to be compensated by Lush Fertilizer for your inconvenience.
Yes, I believe that, they are responsible for my illness and that they should face justice and the consequences of their actions.
However, your doctor holds out hope you will make a full recovery.
I also hold out hope that I will make a full recovery.
I'd like to talk about your potential exposure to other harmful chemicals. You worked in the seed and fertilizer distribution department at Havens, correct?
That is correct.
So your job involved working with a vast array of chemicals and fertilizers all day.
Yes, however, I did use Lush Fertilizer during my time as employee.
That's correct. I'd now like to talk about the warning on the Lush package. There was a user recommendation, as we saw on the Lush package, correct?
Yes, there was.
All right. Your Honor, permission to have Dakota Weirs turn to Exhibit 1.
Yes.
Without saying what this is, do you recognize it?
Yes, I do recognize the exhibit.
And what is it?
I believe that this is the back of the packaging that the Lush Fertilizer came in.
And is it a fair and accurate representation of the packaging when you saw it?
Yes, it is.
All right. I would like to request, Your Honor, I would like to request permission to screen share Exhibit 1. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. There's a user safety recommendation, correct?
Yes, it is.
And that user safety recommendation says, as with any other spray fertilizer, utilize protective clothing that covers exposed skin. Use of a respirator or an N95 face mask is recommended. Follow manufacturer's instructions for cleaning, maintaining personal protective equipment. Right?
Yes, that is what it says. However, this exhibit that you're showing me does not state that use of the product could lead to the diagnosis that I'm faced with today.
Correct. However, there is no difference between this and a warning that, in your own words, helps customers like you take certain precautions while using the product, such as protective gear. Correct?
That is correct.
And this was a recommendation that you were negligent of.
Yeah, like I stated, I may not have always taken the most proper precautions when coming into contact with this product.
So despite any inconvenience you could have had, you failed to wear the protective gear like the package stated.
Yes, I was unaware of the repercussions that could face me when using the product.
I'd now like to talk about your lack of protective gear in relationship to your boss. So your boss also instructed you continually to wear protective gear while working with all chemicals, correct?
Yes, I may have been warned a couple times.
And you didn't follow your boss's instructions either?
Yeah. Well, we
So
were
you
working
were
on-
supposed to,
okay.
oh, sorry.
No,
You
you're
were
fine.
supposed to wear protective gear such as long clothing, gloves, and a face mask, correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
And you chose not to do any of these things?
We were working outside, it gets hot. I like to feel the wind on my face on occasion. So, coming back to my other statements, I may not have always taken the most proper precautions when facing.
But you believe that doing things differently could have prevented your development of non-Hodgkin's.
Could you repeat the question, please?
You believe that doing things differently could have prevented your development of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, correct?
I believe that if I would have known the consequences of not covering up as I have, then I would have most likely taken a different approach to using the product.
All right. I'd now like to talk about your twin sister, Skylar. You have a twin sister named Skylar, correct?
Yes, I do. She is present in the courtroom today.
And you and Skylar had virtually the same surroundings for the most part, with the one exception of being at Havens.
Yes, that is correct. She did not work with me.
So Skylar was not exposed to Drufo.
She was not.
But she also was not exposed to the other chemicals you came in contact with.
Yes, that is correct. She was not. Like I
But
said,
just to clarify, you did come in contact with other chemicals besides Drufo?
Yes, during my time as a landscaping technician, I was in contact with other chemicals.
And you failed to wear the, and many of these chemicals were potentially harmful, as the warnings on their package stated, correct?
Yes, I can't really attest to the different, symptoms that could be caused with the other chemicals.
But you failed to wear the recommended protective gear while using these fertilizers either, and were negligent of numerous warnings to do so. Correct?
I took similar precautions with every product, which included Lush fertilizer.
So you were not wearing protective gear while working with these products?
No, I was not.
So there is a chance that you were exposed to other harmful chemicals that could have caused non-Hodgkin's that Skylar was not, while not wearing protective gear. Correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
All right. And finally, I'd like to talk about when you first decided that Drufo had caused your non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. You first began to suspect that Drufo may be potentially harmful while watching TV, right?
Yes, I was alerted to the fact based on a commercial. However, I do believe that Lush fertilizer is the main corporation responsible for my illness and my subsequent diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So at first, you had no proof of its harmful effects except for something on TV?
I wouldn't say that there's no proof that Lush is responsible for my illness, no.
And yet you still decided to bring it to court based on something you saw on TV. You're not a doctor or a scientist, but you were certain enough that it was Drufo out of all the chemicals you interacted with that caused you to get sick, right?
Well, after doing my, after seeing that commercial, I did a little research of my own, and I found out that the ingredients of Lush fertilizer in America versus the ingredients of Lush fertilizer in a foreign country are differing based on the American version has the contents of a chemical called Drufo. And I believe that that is the main cause of my illness.
Yes,
So-
you mentioned your research. It turned out that that research actually was misleading, correct? Because Drufo is banned in the UK because of something to do with nitrate runoff and not because it has potentially harmful effects to humans, right?
Yes, that may be correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Well, redirect, please.
No redirect, Your Honor.
Very well. Take a moment for scoring.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Could you repeat that?
I was just going to take a few moments for scoring is all. You're okay. We have plaintiff's second witness, please.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, I call Carson Durst to the stand.
Very well.
Good evening, Mr. Durst. Let's go to talk about your employment here for a moment. Where are you currently employed?
I'm currently employed at Terrace Greenery.
How long have you been employed there?
I've been employed there since 2006.
And what are your job duties at Terrace Greenery?
I'm the current lead producer.
Okay. Alrighty, let's go to talk about your past for a little bit. What is your relationship like with Blake Doncourt and Charles Doncourt?
Charles Doncourt is the son of Blake Doncourt, and I am very close with him. We became close ever since we played soccer.
Okay. And where were you previously employed before Terrace Greenery?
I was employed at Lush Fertilizer, excuse me,
No, you're fine. And how long were you employed at Lush Fertilizer?
from 2003 until 2006.
And what was your job? What were your job duties at Lush Fertilizer?
I was a part of the research and development team, and I was employed to look into the chemical compound of Drufo.
Okay. And who was your supervisor at the time that you were working at Lush Fertilizer?
David Longley.
Towards the end of your tenure with Lush Fertilizer, did you leave on good terms?
I did not.
Okay, can you please explain why?
Towards the end of my career with Lush Fertilizer, I was getting a lot of the jobs that not much of the other employees have been getting, and I was being told that the only reason I'm doing good there is because of my relationship with Blake Doncourt, which is not true. So when I would go to Blake to discuss these disturbances I've been having in my job, they would kind of just blow me over.
Okay, let's go ahead and move on one more time. Why are you here in court today?
I'm here to make sure that Dakota Waste gets justice and that Lush Fertilizer is exposed for having a compound in their products that could harm customers by giving them cancer.
And what information led you to believe this?
I found a study in England that found that Drupo is carcinogenic in rats.
Okay, did you find any other similar studies involving humans?
I did not.
Okay, did Lush Fertilizer ever look at whether Drufo did cause cancer in humans?
We did.
Okay, Your Honor, at this time, if I would like to have my co-counsel share her screen and what has been marked as Exhibit 4.
Okay.
Go to the case problem and scroll all the way to
Sorry, give me just one moment, Your Honor. Alrighty, Mr. Durst, do you recognize this exhibit?
I do.
What is it?
This is an email that was sent out to me and the rest of the research and development team by the higher ups.
Okay, and how do you know what this is?
Because I was one of the few that was sent this email.
Okay. Has this email been changed at all since you received it back in September of 2003?
It is not.
Okay, and is it an accurate copy of the email?
It is.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to admit Exhibit 4.
Objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit is admitted.
And at this time, Your Honor, I'd like to move to publish the exhibit as well.
You may.
Mr. Durst, what was the goal of this? What was the goal of this email?
The goal of this email was to influence our team to find a conclusion that management wanted. They want us to find data that would only support their hypothesis.
Okay, and what happened at the conclusion of this entire research project?
At the conclusion of this research, one of my fellow colleagues found that Drupo in its non-baked form could cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma.
Okay, and at the end of that meeting, what happened?
David Longley and Alex Monroe told us to keep this in between the walls and to not let this really get out.
Was there a report following that research project?
There was.
What did the report recommend?
It said that in its non-baked form, Drupo could be carcinogenic to humans.
And what was the counter to that?
The counter to that was that if it is baked, then it is not.
Okay, and why was Drufo so important to Lush Fertilizer?
Because it is used in the majority of our products.
No further questions, Your Honor. What's up?
Go ahead with cross-examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Okay, Mr. Durst, let's start talking about your relationship with the Doncourt family. 20 years ago, the Doncourt family was very close to you, correct?
Correct.
You claim they were like the family you never had?
Correct.
And your best friend was Charles Doncourt, right?
Correct.
Charles was the oldest child of Blake and Morgan Doncourt, correct?
Correct.
You and Charles became inseparable after being on the same soccer team, correct?
Correct.
Let's move into your college career. You went to Arizona State University with Charles, correct?
Correct.
And nearing graduation, you told Charles about struggling to find post-grad employment, correct?
Correct. I seemed hard to find a job.
And Charles recommended that you apply to Lush Fertilizers,
He did.
the company that another Doncourt family friend, Blake, was CEO of.
Correct. His father.
And Charles said he was sure that Blake would pull some strings for you.
Correct.
You graduated with a bachelor's in chemical engineering,
Correct.
and you applied to Lush Fertilizers and were hired as an intern on the research and development team, correct?
Correct.
This happened shortly after your application.
Correct.
You officially started your employment with Lush Fertilizer in June of 2003, correct?
Correct.
And these types of positions are hard to come by for graduates without experience, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk about your career. So you were promoted to a full-time position as a product development engineer after only 3 months,
Correct.
and you are the current lead product developer for Terra's Greenery, correct?
Correct.
And you have worked there since 2006?
Correct.
You oversee Terra's Greenery's development of its line of fertilizers and their lawn enhancement products, correct?
Correct.
And you started working as an intern on the research and development team for Lush Fertilizer in 2003, correct?
Correct.
And Lush Fertilizer was founded by Blake Doncourt in 2000, correct?
Correct.
Let's talk about the biggest assignment that you got, which was developing Drufo. So developing Drufo started in 2001, correct?
Correct.
And you came to the company in 2003 when they were in the process of testing the safety of Drufo, correct?
Correct.
The study was being done with the same department you were working with, right?
Correct.
You were tasked with researching one of the chemical compounds that make Drufo.
Correct.
You found a study in England that Drufo was potentially cancerous to rats, correct?
Correct.
But there was no studies of the effects it has on humans?
I could not find any studies that said it's related to humans, no.
That following September, did you get word that Lush was doing a study whether Drufo was potentially cancerous to humans?
Correct.
And management wanted the conclusion to fit the hypothesis, correct?
Correct.
One of your coworkers found that Drufo may be linked to non-Hodgkin lymphoma, correct?
Correct.
However, the EPA decided it was safe enough to put on the market?
Correct.
Safe enough to put on the market with label no less, correct?
Correct.
Now, some of your coworkers claim that your promotion was just because of your relationship with the Doncourts, correct?
Could you please state that again?
Some of your coworkers claim that your promotion was just because of your relationship with the Doncourts, correct?
They did state that, but I do not think that is what really happened. I believe I was promoted due to my own abilities.
Well, there were also people saying that you were unqualified for your position as a product development engineer, correct?
Correct, but I found myself to be qualified.
You claim that you passed up more experienced engineers because you were performing at a higher level.
Correct. That is how I felt.
Now, during college, you said that you were not even at the top of your classes.
Correct.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Well, will there be redirect?
No, there will not be any redirect, Your Honor.
All right. We'll take a moment for scoring. Do we have plaintiff's third witness, please?
Yes, Your Honor, at this time, I would like to call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand. Can you state your name?
Yes, I'm Dr. Casey Rogers.
Are you currently employed?
Yes, I'm employed at the University of California at Berkeley as a professor.
What do you teach at the University of California, Berkeley?
I'm a professor in horticulture and entomology.
What kind of educational background do you have?
I got my bachelor's of science from Colorado State University. And after that, I got my PhD in agriculture and entomology from the University of California at Berkeley.
Do you have any kind of portfolio or curriculum vitae to show your educational experience and current work experience?
Yes, Exhibit 6 is a copy of my curriculum vitae.
Your Honor, permission to show the witness the exhibit marked as Exhibit 6 through screen sharing?
Okay.
Do you recognize this document?
Yes, that looks like my curriculum vitae.
From everything you can see, is it valid and is every aspect of the document accurately portrayed?
Yes, from what I can see, it's accurate.
Your Honor, at this time, I would like to, or I move to admit Exhibit 6.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
The exhibit is admitted.
At this time, I would also like to publish Exhibit 6.
You may.
Dr. Rogers, have you ever conducted any research relating to any of your fields?
Yes, I've conducted multiple studies.
Can you give an example of some research you've done?
I've done a research survey that revealed the frequency of resistance to Drufo that's published in weed biology. I'm sorry, can you rephrase the question?
That exactly what I was asking, just an example of some research you've done.
Okay.
Your Honor, Your Honor, permission to show the witness the exhibit marked as Exhibit 7 through screen sharing?
Okay.
Do you recognize this list?
Yes, it's on my publications.
From what you can see, are all of these accurately portrayed?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to admit Exhibit 7.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit is admitted.
I would also move to publish Exhibit 7.
Go ahead.
Have you, Dr. Rogers, do you have any experience in the field of toxicology?
It is one of my research interests. Is that what you're looking for? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you rephrase the
Just
question?
any experience?
Yes, I've done some research in toxicology, and yeah.
Was this academic research?
Yes, it's been published in an academic journal.
Your Honor, at this time, I move to qualify Casey Rogers as an expert witness in the fields of horticulture, agriculture, chemistry, and toxicology.
May I present a brief voir dire, Your Honor? You received your undergraduate degree in agriculture and chemistry, correct?
Yes.
And you then received your PhD in agriculture and entomology?
Mm-hmm.
And agriculture is, according to Merriam-Webster, quote, the practice of producing crops and raising livestock, unquote, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Your entomology degree is concentrated in the study of insects?
Yes.
You're currently a professor at UC Berkeley?
Yes, I am.
And you teach in the horticulture and entomology department?
That's correct.
Your research interests include pesticide chemistry and toxicology.
Yes.
Yet you hold no degrees in toxicology.
I don't hold any degrees in toxicology, but I've done plenty of research within toxicology.
But you hold no degrees in it?
No, I don't.
In fact, you have no special training in toxicology.
That's correct.
You also serve as a research analyst.
I'm sorry, you kind of cut out. What was that?
Sorry, you also serve as a research analyst?
Yes.
However, you have no specialized training in research analysis.
No, I don't have specialized training.
So you are testifying here today about the safety of a product with no court experience,
No, I haven't had any court experience yet.
no specialized training in toxicology,
No specialized training in toxicology, no.
no specialized training in research,
No, but I have received a PhD and bachelor's degree in various scientific categories.
but no specialized training in research,
No,
and a degree centered in bugs.
yes, one of my degrees is centered around bugs.
Your Honor, at this time, we object to Dr. Casey Rogers being entered as an expert in agriculture, horticulture, chemistry, and toxicology, as she lacks the education, experience, and skill required under Rule 702. Thank you, Your Honor.
Latest response?
Sorry, Your Honor.
Response to the objection?
Your Honor, under Rule of Evidence 702, in order to qualify an expert as, a witness as an expert, they need to hold either one of the following: knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education. Dr. Rogers has done research in toxicology. It's not specialized research, but it is research none the same. So she would have at least knowledge and experience, which are two of only one required aspect to be qualified as an expert.
Reply.
Your Honor, anybody could have training in a field. So although Dr. Casey Rogers does have some experience in toxicology, that doesn't make her stand out at all, especially if she holds no special training in toxicology, research analysis, research in general. I think that she lacks experience and skill.
Consider the defense objection. I will go ahead and allow the witness to be qualified as an expert.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Sorry, Your Honor, just to clarify, did you overrule or sustain the objection for the qualification on toxicology?
I overruled the objection.
Dr. Rogers, what is DRUFO?
DRUFO is a bonding agent used in, I think, all Lush fertilizer products.
Have you ever conducted research in DRUFO?
Yes, I've conducted my own research on DRUFO.
What did this research entail?
Over the course of a few years, I studied 3 groups of people with various uses of DRUFO.
Could you tell me more about these groups?
Yes, so one group never used DRUFO products. The second group occasionally used DRUFO, while the third group used DRUFO on a regular, almost daily basis.
And what were the results of this study?
According to my findings, the people that used DRUFO the most on a regular basis were 10 times more likely to develop cancer or some kind of disease than someone who had never used DRUFO. And the middle group, and the group with the most use, was 5 times more likely than the middle group to develop a disease or cancer.
And for those who developed cancer, what types of cancers did they typically get?
There were various diseases and cancers, and specifically in Dakota's case, we see that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is what occurred.
Did anyone in your study ever contract non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Yes, the group, sorry.
What is
Objection,
non-Hodgkin's
Your
lymphoma?
Honor. Relevance under 402. Objection, Your Honor. Relevance under 402.
I heard. I'm asking the plaintiff for a response.
I'm sorry. Could the defense clarify which line you're objecting to?
Yeah, just for that last question asked.
Sorry, I started asking another question as you objected.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was the question regarding, actually, would you mind repeating it? For the one that you had started? I objected a bit. My apologies.
Was it what type of cancers do individuals get, or?
Oh, it was the question regarding whether others had contracted non-Hodgkin lymphoma. That was relevant.
Well, because that is a type of cancer and individuals in the study contracted cancer, so it's relevant to the study.
Sorry, I stepped on you there. Is there any reply?
No reply, Your Honor.
Very well. I'll overrule the objection. Proceed.
What is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
It's a disease that attacks the white blood cells, which are lymphocytes. And so it impairs your lymphatic system, which is your immunity.
Was your study on the connection between Drufo and cancer ever published in a scientific journal?
No, it hadn't been published yet.
In your expert opinion, does the fact your study has not been published alter its validity in showing the link between Drufo and cancer?
No, I still followed the scientific method, and I did this study right after Drufo hit the market, and it was my own research just to evaluate Drufo myself.
From your professional experience and the results of your study on Drufo, in your opinion, would it have been possible for the fertilizer developed by Lush Fertilizer Inc., which contains Drufo, to cause cancer?
Yes, from my study and my own research, I would say that it's highly probable that Drufo could cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma, or in Dakota Weir's case, I'd say it's highly probable.
Let's go to Dakota Weir's. Were you present during his testimony?
Yes, I was present.
So from what you've learned, out of the three groups in your study, what group do you think Dakota would most closely match to in terms of his exposure to Drufo?
It was his job, and he was using it on a regular basis, so I think he would identify with the group that was exposed the most.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Dr. Casey Rogers. Let's begin by talking about some of your history. So you've been studying Drufo for many years?
Yes.
This is your first time actually testifying, correct?
Yes, I hope to testify in the future.
And as you said, you're hoping that this will not be your last trial?
Yes, I hope to be at the forefront of this.
Claim that Dakota Weirs is not the only person to develop non-Hodgkin lymphoma from Drufo.
Well, within my study, people develop various diseases and cancers, and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is one of those.
And as you said, you assume that if this case goes the way you want, it will open the door to class action lawsuits?
Yes, just giving people justice for diseases they've contracted.
Sorry, objection. My mic was muted. Out of scope of direct.
You assume that if this case goes the way you want?
Correct.
May I consult with co-counsel, Your Honor?
Yes.
Your Honor, this is not a valid objection because my question helped to prove bias on the point of Dr. Casey Rogers.
Reply.
No reply at this time.
The objection is overruled. Continue.
I'm going to re-ask the question, Your Honor. So you assume that if this case goes the way you want, it will open the door to class action lawsuits?
Yes.
And you'll be on the forefront of that battle?
Yes, I hope to help people with my knowledge and my education and expertise to get the justice they deserve.
But this would bring you a lot of personal financial prosperity and notoriety, correct?
Probably, yes.
Let's next touch on discovering Drufo. So when it came on the market, Drufo immediately caught your attention.
Yes, it was pretty revolutionary for what and unique.
And it caught your attention because you believed it was rushed to the market.
Yeah, I don't think there were sufficient studies on its safety.
And yeah, as you said, you thought it was rushed because it didn't have sufficient studies on its safety.
Yes.
And due to this belief, you decided to conduct your own study.
Yeah.
Let's now talk about the process of your study. So your study was separated into 3 groups, correct?
Yes.
One was a control group of people who had never been exposed to Drufo.
Yes.
One was a group of people who used products containing Drufo on occasion.
Yes.
And a group of people who were exposed to Drufo on an almost daily basis.
Yes.
Those who were exposed to Drufo included farm laborers.
Yes.
It also included gardeners who had been working with many other chemicals along with Drufo while working.
Yes.
And the study found an increase in serious health conditions and diagnoses in those individuals who were exposed to Drufo.
Yes.
However, these individuals were also exposed to other chemicals and pesticides.
They could have been, yes.
These individuals were likely exposed to other chemicals and pesticides as they included gardeners and farm laborers.
Yeah, they could have been exposed to other fertilizers too.
They likely were, yes.
Yes.
In fact, you only have proof that agriculture products in general can be connected to health conditions.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes, sorry. In fact, you only have proof that agriculture products in general can be connected to health conditions.
I don't know if I quite understand the question.
Let me attempt to rephrase. So agriculture products, chemicals, and pesticides can be linked to health conditions. And that was one of the only thing you found proof of through your study.
Yes, pesticides and agriculture products can be linked to disease and cancer.
And there are many variables in this study that you could and did not attempt to control, correct?
Well, no, I had the middle group, which showed that from that group to the group with the most, there was an increase of disease.
Okay, but even in your middle group, there was no control group of people who had been exposed to agriculture products that didn't include Drufo, only products with. Yes?
Okay, yes.
According to your study, to reduce risks of absorption to skin, anyone who works with Drufo should wear long sleeves and long pants.
Yes, I do say that.
And you claim that those working with aerosolized versions of Drufo should wear a medical grade protective face mask.
Yes, that's what I would suggest.
But you know that Dakota Weirs was not regularly wearing protective suits or masks while working.
I do know that, and I know that he wasn't aware of.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Will there be redirect?
Yes. Dr. Rogers, why are you in court today?
I'm here to testify on behalf of Dakota Weirs as an expert witness.
And why do you want to do that? You've stated that you hope to testify more in the future. Why is that?
Because I want to help people get the justice they deserve. I have the expertise to help people that might not know as much about Drufo as I do.
And is your primary reason for wanting to do that financial?
No, I wouldn't say it's financial.
All right, back to your study. What was your study on?
My study was on the prolonged exposure of Drufo.
So you, was your study on all agricultural products?
No, I was just focusing on Drufo.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, thank you. We will take a moment for scoring. Go ahead with defense, first witness. You're muted.
The defense would like to call Dr. Devin Williams to the stand.
Very well.
All right. Good evening, Dr. Devin Williams.
Good evening.
Please state your name and spell the last for the record.
Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
And Dr. Williams, where did you attend university?
I went to Colorado State University.
What degrees do you hold?
I have a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology and a master's in forensics toxicology.
Do you have any other educational certification?
I have a bachelor's in toxicology and a practicum certificate in pharmacotoxicology.
And what teaching experience do you have in this field?
I am a tenured assistant professor for the University of New Mexico.
Can you tell the jury about your other experience in this field?
I'm the chief medical examiner toxicologist for Long County, and I've been working with Lush Fertilizers for 11 years.
All right. And what roles have you held at Lush?
Initially, I was hired on as a technician, where I was later promoted to lead scientist, and I'm currently their outgoing ethics.
Your Honor, the defense moves to enter Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in toxicology, as he has the proper education, training, and experience under Rule 702.
There be an objection?
No objection.
Very well. Witness is qualified as an expert in those fields. You may continue.
All right. I'd like to talk about the environmental effects of DRUFO. In your affidavit, you talk about a process called eutrophication. What is this process exactly?
So eutrophication is when water runoff collects a bunch of nitrates, and those nitrates travel to a body of water, such as a lake, stream, or river, and the nitrates can collect, creating dense algae blooms, and it can be harmful to the environment.
Why was DRUFO developed?
DRUFO was actually developed to help stop, or at least bring this process to a minimum.
And how does DRUFO affect the environment as opposed to other fertilizers?
Compared to other fertilizers.
Objection. Relevancy.
Your Honor, this is relevant because it is showing that Lush Fertilizer is an environmentally aware company that takes responsibility and has initiative both when caring for the environment and when caring for their customers.
Reply.
We're in court today to decide whether Dakota Ware's contracted non-Hodgkin's lymphoma because of negligence on Lush Fertilizer's part, not how DRUFO affects the environment.
Your Honor, the environmental impact of DRUFO is important because the whole reason it was developed was to positively impact the environment. So I'm exploring the reason why DRUFO exists at all.
I let her speak again. Will there be another reply to the response?
The reason DRUFO was created is not relevant to whether it can cause non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Very well. I will say that this is a closer call than some have been today. I'm going to overrule the objection and we'll carry on.
All right. Dr. Devin Williams, is DRUFO banned in any countries?
Yes, it's currently banned in countries all over the EU.
And do you know why this is?
Mainly because in lab tests, it produces a nitrate level that's over or would be over a natural level.
All right. I'd now like to the toxicology of Drufo. You have a degree in toxicology and have mentioned it several times before. What exactly is toxicology?
Toxicology is basically looking and testing chemicals to see if they'd be harmful to humans short or long term, and how to either help neutralize it or just how it affects the human body.
And how do you know if a substance is harmful to humans?
You would first run labs and tests and see if it would be
I'd like to Dr. Casey Rogers now. Do you know or at least know of Casey Rogers?
Yeah, I a article she put out. I think she called it a study.
And what is flawed in Casey Rogers' data set?
It's fundamentally flawed. She doesn't quite give any baseline variable other than people who don't use Drufo, and even then she's just raised the exposure to Drufo and doesn't account for any confounding variables.
You said Dr. Rogers' study was comparing apples to oranges in your affidavit. How does this affect the validity of her research?
Again, with as many variables and uncontrolled variables as she has in the so-called study, it doesn't quite give a concise or really any answers at all.
What would you change if you were to conduct Dr. Rogers' study?
I'd definitely take some time and make sure I could study everything, have it peer reviewed, and I'd set up parameters. So a decent study.
And how would conducting the study this way change the final outcome?
By doing this, you'd get clear, concise answers that give you what you want and actual factual information.
All right, I'd now like to talk about the safety of Drufo. Is Drufo correlated with a statistically significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
No, actually, in lab tests, it's come below a normal confidence level.
And what does that mean, that Drufo came in below a normal confidence level?
So when I say that, it basically means that when you Drufo, the chance of developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma is equal to or less than how it would normally occur, or as much as.
Do you believe that any valid evidence that Drufo causes non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Not at all. And the failed study only goes to prove this.
All right, no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Dr. Williams, you've worked with Lush Fertilizer Inc. since 2010, correct? Oh, that's over a decade. Sorry, let me just start over. You've worked with Lush Fertilizer since 2010. That's over a decade, correct?
Yes.
Of course, this means you are paid a salary by Lush Fertilizer, right?
Yes.
You're also an advocate of Lush Fertilizer's product, given Drufo's ability to reduce nitrate pollution, correct?
Yes, I am.
So you would say you believe in the work Lush Fertilizer is doing?
I do.
Given your belief in Lush Fertilizer's work and your employment there, wouldn't it be fair to say you have some bias for the company?
You could say I have some bias, but it's definitely still a good product either way.
According to you, any correlation between Drufo and cancer is that there is no statistically significant correlation, correct?
No, there's
and according to the study done by Dr. Casey Rogers, regardless of how valid you would say it is, there is a 10 times increase in cancer diagnosis in persons with prolonged exposure to Drufo, correct?
No. I said the study was, or I believe the study to be false. And by saying that, I believe those answers are very incorrect.
But according to Dr. Rogers, it is a 10 times increase.
According to her, yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Judge, you're muted.
Judge, you're muted.
The space key doesn't work anymore. Will there be redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we'll take a moment then.
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Skylar Weirs to the stand.
There you go.
Good afternoon, Ms. Skylar Weirs. Please state your name and spell your last for the record.
Skylar Weirs, Weirs.
Ms. Weirs, what do you do for a living?
I'm an investigative journalist.
And what are most of your articles written about?
I've written several prominent articles on the conflict between individual health and corporate policy.
And have you ever written about Drufo?
My editor picked me to write a series of articles on modern agritech, and I wrote about Drufo as part of that series.
How long did you spend researching for that article?
I spent almost a year reading and researching.
And what is your knowledge based on?
I know I don't have a college degree, but my knowledge base involves general knowledge as well as historical and statistical information, and you don't get a degree for that. In fact, outside of the USDA and other governmental agricultural organizations, I doubt anyone has the overall perspective on modern agritech that I do.
Your Honor, the defense moves to Ms. Weirs as an expert in modern agritech as she has both the knowledge and experience under Rule 702.
Will there be an objection?
No objections, Your Honor.
Witnesses so qualified. Go ahead.
Now, earlier you said you had written an article about Drufo. What were some of your findings in that research?
Drufo is an incredibly effective bonding agent, which means that a significantly smaller amount of fertilizer and pesticide needs to be applied to achieve the desired effect. The research on whether Drufo causes cancers, such as non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, is inconclusive at best. There's a much clearer causal link between other pesticides and cancer.
Now, do you believe that Drufo is safe?
I'm here to stand by my research because I know it is the right thing to do. Drufo could be a game changer when it comes to currently used agricultural pesticides and fertilizers, as it is much safer.
Now, what does lush do for the environment?
One of the major reasons I first became interested in researching Lush Fertilizer is because of the company's commitment to donate 10% of their profits towards reducing nitrogen contamination in groundwater agricultural communities.
Let's talk about who you work for. So, what magazine do you work for?
I write for The Rationalist, a quarterly science education and science advocacy magazine.
And who is Rationalist published by?
The Rationalist is published by the Rationalist Society.
And how does Rationalist play into Lush Fertilizer?
The Rationalist advocates for resisting the spread of pseudoscience, and fertilizer in particular has been the target of much of the pseudoscientific mass hysteria surrounding agritech recently.
Now, earlier you told me Lush reduces nitrogen. Can you tell me some of the negative effects of nitrogen?
Nitrogen is known to contribute to various types of cancer, as well as adverse reproductive outcomes, neural tube defects, diabetes, and thyroid conditions. Synthetic nitrogen from fertilizers is also terrible for the environment.
What are the ecological effects of nitrogen?
Ecological effects of nitrogen are well known and include dead zones in lakes and oceans, such as the one in the Gulf of Mexico that is the size of New Jersey.
And how does Lush combat the adverse effects of nitrogen?
As I've said before, Drufo is an incredibly effective bonding agent. The way this works is that Drufo bonds to both the grass and Lush fertilizer's active ingredients and prevents these ingredients from being washed away as quickly. This also means that it reduces the solubility of the fertilizer and it's less likely to contaminate groundwater and waterways.
I would like to talk about past pseudoscientific hit jobs. What can you tell me about Monsanto?
Monsanto is a company that was doing great things for the world when their competitors got jealous and waged a huge pseudoscientific hit job to destroy them.
And how does this relate to the current situation with Drufo?
Lush Fertilizer has been the target of one of these pseudoscientific hit jobs because their patented breakthrough Drufo, it threatens to upend their competitors' careers.
What consequences can come from misinformation campaigns?
Technology has allowed us to find ways of creating incredibly safe products. And while there isn't probably ever going to be a chemical fertilizer that is truly safe, we can see with Drufo that technology has the ability of making it safer, while misinformation campaigns could cause it all to just be thrown away.
So what could possibly come from this Drufo misinformation campaign?
Well, Drufo is, it could be a huge breakthrough, but we may never know due to misinformation campaigns.
Now, since we are all here because of Dakota Weirs, what is your relationship with her?
Dakota Weirs is my twin sister.
And from your point of view, what does your relationship look like?
Dakota and I don't have the stereotypically close twin relationship, but we're still family.
Are you testifying against Dakota out of ill intent?
Some people have suggested that I am here today because I want to undermine Dakota or that I'm motivated by money, but that is absolutely ridiculous. As I said before, we're family.
Now, do your finances play a role in your relationship with Dakota?
Yes, sadly, I have a bit of a gambling problem, which my parents were helping me pay off before my mom died, but my dad cut me off after that. However, it's a mission that I truly do believe in.
And does your gambling debt impact your testimony?
No, it does not. This is a mission that I truly believe in, and I stand by my research.
So, Ms. Weirs, I just have one final question. Why are you here?
I'm here to stand by my research and reveal the truth.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Examination.
So, Ms. Weirs, is it accurate you stated outside of the USDA and NASDA, I doubt anyone has the overall perspective on modern agritech that I do?
Yes, that is correct.
And you're only 20?
I am.
And you don't have a degree?
No, I do not.
And you only researched for almost a year?
Yes, I researched for almost a year.
So you're saying that no one outside of the USDA and NASDA is as smart in that area as you?
No, I believe that people inside the USDA and NASDA are perfectly well researched. I'm not in that organization, but I believe I have a level of research that compares to theirs.
Okay. Well, you also, where did you get your articles from or info for your articles?
I researched from many scientific journals and yeah, many readings.
Were they from agritech companies?
Some of them were, yes.
Would you say that they have a little bit of bias in them?
It's possible, but I believe that most of the studies I read from were not biased.
Okay. Is it also true that you write fiction and conspiracy theories?
On occasion, yes, I do.
And are you also a full-time author?
No, my writing is freelance.
Okay. So you also mentioned that you had a gambling problem
I do.
and you are also in major debt.
I am.
And your parents funded you but then cut you off?
Yes, sadly, after my mom died.
Is it true that you're still in the will?
I believe that I am, yes.
But your father is still having to pay a massive amount for Dakota's medical bills?
Yes,
And that money will probably be taken out of the will?
it is likely, yeah.
Do you resent Dakota because of that?
No, I love her. We're family. Although it is hard with my finances and her medical bills.
But you're testifying against her.
I am, because although I love her, I don't believe that Drufo is the cause of her cancer.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Will there be redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Very well. We will take a moment. May we have the next defense witness, please?
Yes, the defense calls Blake Doncourt to the stand. Good afternoon, Mr. Doncourt. Please state your name and spell the last for the record.
Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
I'd first like to start by asking some questions about who you are and what you do. So what is your job specifically?
Well, I'm the CEO of Lush Fertilizers.
And when did your company start?
Well, I founded the company in 2000 and took it from one of the smallest companies to one of the top 4 producers of fertilizer in the world.
And how hard did you work to make Lush Fertilizer successful?
Well, as everyone knows, starting your own small business is no easy task, especially in the fertilizer industry dominated with such large players. It took years of hard work and research and many long days and sleepless nights.
I would now like to talk about your carcinogenic research. So what is Drufo?
Drufo is a chemical bonding agent found in all of our products.
And what does Drufo do?
Well, it basically helps the fertilizer stick to the plant and reduce runoff.
And what did studies or federal and state laws find in your product?
Well, as Devin Williams, our toxicology expert, will tell you, and the EPA will tell you that our product was completely safe and was not carcinogenic at all. The EPA even said we didn't have to have a warning label on our product, but we chose to put one on anyways, just to help people out.
Do you bake your product?
We do not bake our product.
And why not?
Well, because for a product that was already safe, baking it was not a good use of resources. And I did the numbers, and 6% in the first year, and an added 2% for every year after that of extra.
Objection. I'm going to object to facts not in evidence.
May I please have a moment to refer to co-counsel, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, could you repeat your objection, please?
Yes, of course. I objected to facts, not evidence.
Okay, one moment. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Well,
Are you personally aware of anything that would cause you to believe Drufo was unsafe for consumers?
Definitely not. I've seen no valid scientific evidence to link it in any way to cancer. And if I had, I certainly wouldn't have put our product on the market.
And did you know anything that would imply Drufo may be carcinogenic?
I knew nothing at all.
Well, let's touch on Dakota Weirs and what she is claiming. So what do you know about Dakota's disease?
Well, I know it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is not genetic, so she had to get it from somewhere. I also
Objection. I'm going to go ahead and object to speculation there.
Okay. Sorry, once again, may I have a moment to refer to co-counsel?
yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is not speculation under Rule 402 because knowing about Dakota's disease, especially because Dakota is what this whole case is about, my client's opinion and knowledge of Dakota is quite relevant. And once again, it's his opinion and knowledge based on what he's read from the case. So not speculation.
Fine.
Mr. Doncourt's opinion on where Dakota got the illness is not of his knowledge. He is not a physician in any way. He does not have a medical degree. He may testify to the fact that he does have non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but nothing more.
Well, this is true. Blake Doncourt, my client, has lots of history in the fertilizer industry, and he doesn't have to be a scientist to have reviewed over the case and have his own opinions on the matter.
That is true, but in court, you need to the opinion needs to be in the facts in the witness statement, and nowhere in the witness statement does Dr. Doncourt, or excuse me, Blake Doncourt, talk about where Dakota got his sickness from.
We will stop the back and forth there. I could let the two of you go well into the dinner hour. This is an interesting question. I think the objection is not only speculation, but also beyond this witness's personal knowledge, and as much as he's not qualified as that sort of an expert. But in order to keep the competition as we want it to be, you might say, I will overrule the objection.
Of course, Your Honor.
So how do you feel about Dakota suing your company?
Well, obviously I don't like it, but it's not her fault.
So who do you believe is at blame?
Just greedy people trying to get rich off some shaky evidence.
So I'd now like to talk about Dr. Casey Rogers and what you know about them. So what do you know about Dr. Casey Rogers?
Well, not much other than she's a self-proclaimed expert, which frankly, I don't think is valid.
And in your opinion, did the study follow reliable protocols?
From what I've seen, no. Today in court, it seemed like there was way too many variables. And from what I've heard, it also did not seem to be complete. So I would say no.
Have you heard of Dr. Casey Rogers before this trial?
I had not heard of her before this trial. Apparently, this is the first time that this findings have ever been published.
And what do you think that Dr. Casey Rogers' motivation is behind the study?
Well, I know that as a hired expert witness, she'll be making a lot more money than as a paid scientist. So I think she's just trying to jump on the litigation bandwagon and gain herself some credit.
Questions on your financial situation and relationship with your ex-romantic partner. So did you have an ex-romantic partner named Morgan?
Yes, I did.
And how was your relationship?
Not good. What I came to see now is while I was working and working, she was spending and spending. I see now that she was just a gold digger, just after me for my money. Let's just say there's some bad blood.
And do you believe your divorce ended fairly?
I do not. I believe they didn't reward me for my hard work, but instead rewarded her for promoting nothing to this joint relationship.
And did this divorce impact your company or the way you produce your products?
No, not at all. It just devastated me emotionally, but didn't change the way I ran my company at all.
And are you in any way financially unstable because of Morgan?
No, some people said I was financially unstable, but I certainly was not. Although I was giving her way too much money that I think I was still able to fund my company properly.
All right, so finally, we'll touch on Lush Fertilizer and its role in the environment. So do you care about the environment?
Yes, I love the environment and I'm a self-proclaimed environmentalist.
And was the environment a top priority when you were creating Lush?
Yes, along with safety, which you must have, it was definitely one of our top priorities.
Why do you care about the environment?
Well, the environment helps everyone. So by helping the environment and giving the people fertilizer that they can be sustainable with, I feel I'm helping everyone.
And compared to other fertilizer companies, what environmental impacts does your product have?
Ours is much more sustainable because we're lowering the nitrogen footprint by donating 10% of our profit to the people, to charities that help the environment. It's also more cost effective because of those reasons.
And Lush is also, has Lush created legislation?
Yes, actually, we passed a couple bills in the state and national level to help educate people on environmental difficulties.
And as I believe you mentioned, have you started a charity for your fertilizer?
Yes, we started a charity to help clean the most dirty parts of the ocean.
Have you won any awards for your concern for the environment?
Yes, we actually won the SEAL Sustainability Award in 2019, and we were nominated for the UN Champions of the Nation or Champions of the World award in 2020. And we were hoping to get nominated again in 2021, but this whole litigation derailed that.
How do these contributions speak to your motive behind Lush?
Well, I think they show that Lush is really in it for the good of the people and the world, and I think they show our good intentions.
To clarify for the jury, do you have any reason to believe that Lush fertilizers resulted in Dakota's non-Hodgkin lymphoma?
Absolutely not. I trust my scientists when they say it's safe. I trust the EPA when they say it's safe, and I just trust everyone around me, so definitely no.
And do you believe that Drufo is the reason for Dakota Weir's lymphoma?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Examination.
Yes, Your Honor. Good evening, Mr. Doncor. I'd like to talk to you about your research team in 2003 through 2006. Jerry Langley worked for you, correct?
No. Jerry, oh, yes. He was one of our people, I think. Yeah.
Okay, and he was the he was the Drufo product manager?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, she was a part of the research team, he was still a part of the research team that you assigned in 2003 through 2006, correct?
He must have been on the research team, yes.
And it was his job to synthesize the information from the research team and share that information with you?
No, I wouldn't say exactly that. I don't think so, no.
Well, what would you say?
Well, we hired him originally to work his way up through the company, right? And so then he started off kind of on the lower levels, just as being a part of these science experiments and being like one of the guys. And then slowly throughout his career, I saw that he had good work, so I promoted him a little bit. But I would say his job was more just one of the guys, around the office, doing a lot of experiments, running a lot of tests, and just really following the higher guys up, like my friend Devin.
Okay, and I just want to clarify, we are talking about Jerry Langley, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And Drufo is important to your business's success?
Yes, very important. It's in all of our products.
Okay. In fact, the way that Drufo works as a bonding agent is what makes your Lush fertilizer different from any other on the market, correct?
Yes, I would say that, and then the environmental charities that we give to, and it being more sustainable.
Okay. Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to show the witness what has been marked as Exhibit 8. Or, excuse me, not Exhibit 8, Exhibit 4.
Fine, too.
Do I need? Yes, I think I need to look at this online.
All right, give me just one moment. I'll go ahead and share the screen so it's easier for you. Can't see crap. There we go. Sorry, let me switch this real quick. There we go. Okay. Mr. Doncourt, do you recognize this exhibit?
Not really. I think this is some sort of something. I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, I know it's an exhibit, but I don't really know what's in it.
Okay, and is your name in the list of names that this email was supposed to be sent to?
I don't even know if this is an email because it doesn't have the right addresses on it. And I don't know why Jerry Langley would be sending this. He was just kind of like a foot soldier. I barely remembered him. But
okay.
I do see my name at the top here in like right up there, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, that is what I'm asking.
Yes, I see my name there.
Okay, sorry, give me just one moment. So, however, your testimony today is that this email just doesn't exist, correct?
I don't even think is this supposed to be an email?
It is.
It looks, if it exists, it had nothing to do with me nor was in my company.
Okay, so once again, your testimony today is that this email never existed.
Yes, definitely not.
Okay. During the time when your company was researching and planning to market fertilizer containing Drufo, isn't it true that you were in the middle of a divorce?
Yes, I was in divorce with my ex-partner, Morgan.
Okay, and you were ordered to pay your ex-partner,
Objection,
Morgan.
Your Honor, relevance under 402.
Your Honor, this is something that the defense talked about in their own direct examination.
Your Honor, even if something was covered in their direct examination, it does not necessarily make it relevant to this case.
Your Honor, or sorry, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Your Honor, I am attempting to establish the credibility of the witness. In fact, I'm attempting to show the financial bias of the witness.
Any response to that?
No response, Your Honor.
Okay. The objection will be overruled. I continue.
Okay, so I'm not too sure which question she was objecting to, so I'll just go and start from the beginning once again. During the time when your company was researching and planning to market fertilizer that contained Drufo, you were in a divorce, correct? You were in the middle of a divorce?
Yes, I was going through a divorce.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you were ordered to pay your ex-wife Morgan spousal support around the same time that you were beginning to market Drufo. Is this correct?
Yeah, kind of correct. I mean, it was just one day that they ordered me to do that, so.
However, the process of a divorce takes longer than just a day, correct?
Oh, yes. It's quite strenuous and very emotionally tolling.
This is true. And in 2004, you received information that caused you to look into how much it would cost to bake Drufo, correct?
Well, yeah, that when our scientists came to us and said it was safe without baking, I really looked into that to make the decision whether to bake or not.
Okay. And you were informed that by baking the product Drufo, you would be assured that this would not be carcinogenic, correct?
Yes, and they said that our product was safe, so I just trusted them and the EPA.
Okay. However, you were informed that it would completely get rid of the carcinogenic factor of Drufo, correct?
Yes, baking does do that.
Okay. As a matter of fact, you ended up creating an amortization table that evaluated the cost of actually baking the product, correct?
Yeah, I created my own table to help my company.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to show the witness what has been marked as Exhibit 8.
Go ahead.
Okay, give me just one moment. Okay, let me flip this around so we can actually see it. Okay, Mr. Doncourt, do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, that's the table I made.
Okay, and how can you be sure that you know what this is?
Well, because I made it.
Okay, and is this an accurate representation of the table that you made?
Yes, this is.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time, I would like to admit Exhibit 8 into evidence.
The objection.
No objections, Your Honor.
The Exhibit is admitted. Go ahead.
And at this time, I would like to move to publish the exhibit as well.
You may.
Excuse me. This table covers the time from about 2004 to 2014, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And according to this table, over a 10-year period, your company would have lost an estimated $2.6 million, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So for example, in 2010, are you able to see where it says 2010?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Your estimated profit, if you didn't bake Drufo, would have been 1,921,000, correct?
I believe it says 659,000.
Where it says 2010.
Yes.
And do you see where it says profit
Net
before baking?
Oh, probably. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. That was probably my fault.
Okay, my bad. No, yeah, it's all good.
And if your company baked Drufo, then that profit would have amounted to 1,659,000, correct?
Can you say that number again?
Yes, of course. It's 1,659,000.
Yes. Yeah, that's what.
Okay. In that same year of 2010, the cost of baking Drufo would have been $262,753, correct?
Yes, correct.
And isn't it true that you listed that amount as lost revenue?
Yes, that would revenue that would have gone towards baking the product, which was unnecessary.
Okay. And in creating this table, you didn't include a column for potential future legal fees or financial liability if unbaked Drufo gave your customers cancer?
No, because this actually is just about the baking, not about financial. I have made other tables for financial things, and I've made tables that help my employees, how much I have to pay them. But if you can see, this one is just baking.
Okay. And that actually brings me to my next question. Having to pay damages, for example, having to pay the damages to someone who got cancer due to your product could also be considered lost revenue, correct?
Yeah, that would be lost revenue if we're getting legal fees.
So isn't it fair to say that you didn't consider all of the variables?
In this, no, I think I did consider all the variables.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Will there be redirect?
A very brief redirect, Your Honor. So, Mr. Doncourt, out of your entire department of scientists, there was only out of your entire department of scientists, you trust Devin Williams, correct?
Yes, Devin Williams was one of our top scientists.
And do you believe that baking your product is necessary?
Not at all. After everyone told me that it was safe before baking, I just couldn't see those 2% and 6% go down the drain for a product that was already safe.
And just to reiterate, is safety an important factor in your company?
Yes, it's the baseline. When you're establishing a company, there's certain things you have to have. Safety is one of those. So after we establish safety and a quality product, then we could build on that and make it more environmentally friendly.
And do you believe that Drufo is the reason for Dakota Weir's lymphoma?
Oh, not at all.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, we'll take a moment. Can we have plaintiff's closing statement, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Lush Fertilizer wanted to make a buck, and Dakota Weirs paid the price. Dakota Weirs is 20 years old. His life has been put on hold as he is suffering catastrophic health consequences because of the irresponsible and greedy business practices of Lush Fertilizer. You heard how Dakota Weirs has been a young man who has been very involved in school and his community. On top of his volunteer work, he has been a member of the National Honor Society and was president of his student government. He played the piano well enough to earn a scholarship to attend Juilliard. an opportunity that many can only dream of. On top of all this, he worked as a landscaper, trusting that the products he used would not ruin his life. Now Dakota Weirs is here, asking you to hold the company that endangered his health and the health of so many others responsible for the harm their greed has caused. Lush would have you hold Dakota Weirs responsible for their failures. They will argue that Dakota was contributory negligent because he didn't wear protective clothing. The warning was the same generic warning label that comes on all fertilizer. That warning was utterly insufficient to communicate the potential consequences to the end user, Dakota Weirs. Lush Fertilizer would have reasonably expected that the users of its fertilizer might not have worn a hazmat suit or an N95 mask when using the product. They have a way of making it safe, and they simply chose money over safety. Lush Fertilizer had a research team that was tasked with studying the potential harmful effects of Drufo. That team did their job. You have heard about studies suggesting that Drufo caused cancer in rats, as well as information that scientists on the research team had concerns about potential carcinogenic effects of Drufo in humans. One member of the team even specifically raised the issue of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The team also recommended baking Drufo to make it safe. What did Lush Fertilizer do with all this information? They did a cost-benefit analysis. They decided that the health and welfare of their customers was not worth $250,000 to $300,000 a year. Instead, they saw that over 10 years' time, it would cost them $2.6 million to make the profit safe. What Exhibit 8 shows you, though, is that even if they did bake the product, Lush Fertilizer would have still made a profit ranging from $1.4 million to $1.8 million. In perspective, $250,000 per year seems like a small price to pay. The plaintiff had the burden of proving all four elements of the claim of negligence, which was done. The evidence clearly shows by a preponderance of the evidence that Lush Fertilizer was negligent by failing to exercise reasonable care to prevent the product from creating an unreasonable risk or harm to persons who use its product. Lush Fertilizer knew that there was a potential issue with the product, and it knew that there was a way to make it safe. And by failing to do so, Lush Fertilizer was negligent. Dakota Weirs has been damaged by the negligence of Lush Fertilizer, and Dakota Weirs has lost his future, his quality of life, and his health. And he asks you to hold Lush Fertilizer responsible for its negligence and award him with $2.6 million that Lush added to its profits over a 10-year period as punitive damages. Thank you.
Now have the defense closing.
Yes, Your Honor. May it please the court, opposing counsel, and members of the jury. What you have seen today is a very desperate boy making a desperate attempt to find an explanation for his suffering. Sloppy, biased, and unscientific. That is the definition of pseudoscience. In this desperate attempt, Dakota Weirs was forced to resort to science that was sloppy, biased, and unscientific. This case is not about whether or not Dakota Weirs is sick, nor the effects of the illness on his life. Both sides acknowledge that non-Hodgkin's lymphoma has had a terrible impact on him. This case is about whether or not Lush Fertilizer is the cause of that sickness. In the beginning, the only reason Dakota had to believe that Drufo was the cause of his illness was a story he saw on TV. However, his own sister, Skylar Weirs, had just finished writing a year-long research paper that proved the safety of Drufo. Dakota ignored his sister's own research and chose to do his own, which, as we learned, turned out to be misleading in several aspects. In his desperation to accuse someone for his illness, he made a sloppy attempt to throw the blame on the first company he could. What Mr. Weirs saw in his illness are merely a coincidence, and this jury must rule based off proof, not coincidence. Lush Fertilizer was an outlet for Dakota's frustration. Mr. Weirs filed a negligence claim against Lush. However, he has proved himself to be the truly negligent one here. In his testimony, he admitted to heeding neither the user safety recommendation on the Lush package or his boss's continual warnings to wear a mask, long sleeves, and pants. You also heard today from Carson Durst, an ex-engineer at Drufo. As a close family friend of the Doncourts, Mr. Durst grew used to getting special treatment from his boss. When the special treatment stopped, he grew angry and bitter. He even went so far in his revenge as to go and work for Lush's competitor, Terra Greenery. But apparently it was not enough. When he saw another opportunity to hurt his old friends, he jumped at it. It is no coincidence that the only scientist out of a large department with dirt to dish on Lush is the one who has a rocky history with its owner. In his thirst for revenge, Carson Durst presented a biased argument full of nothing but lies in an attempt to, in his own words, get Blake's goat. As you heard today,
Dr. Casey Rogers' study is the embodiment of pseudoscience. Her study failed in basic areas such as isolation from exterior factors, leading to results that were not a true and accurate representation of Drufos qualities. In her study, Casey Rogers compared 3 groups of people with different exposure rates to Drufo. However, she failed to note that the groups with higher exposure to Drufo also had a higher exposure to other chemicals and fertilizers. Perhaps it is because she has a degree in a field totally unrelated to toxicology that she failed to use even basic protocol when performing her experiment. The lack of professionalism and care in her experiment proves that the only reason she is here is because she hopes to use this case as a launchpad to a future in litigation. Casey Rogers does not have any solid scientific proof that Drufo causes non-Hodgkin's because she has not run a solid scientific experiment. The prosecution's argument fits all the categories involved in pseudoscience. It is both sloppy, biased, and unscientific. Today, you also heard from Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizer. Mr. Doncourt holds true to his belief that Drufo is not harmful to his customers and had never heard about it being dangerous from any of his scientists. And finally, we heard from Dr. Devin Williams. Dr. Williams personally oversaw the tests run on Drufo to ensure its safety. He has worked for Lush at Lush for over a decade and has a degree in toxicology which deals directly with analyzing the safety of chemicals. He explained how Drufo came in under a normal confidence level, meaning that it has been clinically proven not to give people non-Hodgkin's using carefully monitored, scientifically accurate experiments that don't use outside factors. Dr. Williams has given us the perspective of a professional who's been working with Drufo for a long time and is certain of its absolute safety and reliability. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the burden of proof is upon the plaintiff to prove that it is more likely than not that the defendant was negligent and caused Dakota Weirs to contract non-Hodgkin's. However, today they have only shown you sloppy claims, biased testimony, and unscientific evidence. We, the defense, have provided evidence to show you the negligence of the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs. Ms. Weirs failed to comply with safety precautions and inhaled many toxic chemicals, causing her own disease. According to jury rule number 8, a form of comparative fault is negligence, if any, of the plaintiff. Such comparative fault is an affirmative defense that is proved if you find both of the following by a preponderance of the evidence. First, that the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, failed to do something that reasonably careful people would do under the same or similar circumstances to prevent the plaintiff's claimed injuries, damages, or losses. And second, that conduct by the plaintiff was the cause of the plaintiff's claimed injuries, damages, or losses. Dakota Weirs was negligent of the warnings on the package and those given by her boss to wear protective gear while using Drufo, which falls under the category of something reasonably careful people would do. Had she worn the suggested protective gear, she could have prevented any chance of her contracting non-Hodgkin's. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Dakota Weirs is desperate, and desperate people do desperate things. We ask that you find in favor of the defense and find Lush Fertilizer not liable. Thank you.
We will take a moment for scoring.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
We're taking a moment for scoring.
Oh, okay.
Right, has our jury finished scoring? If you haven't, say so. If you have, I don't need to hear anything. All right then. we don't crash the entire internet, I would be grateful to see all of the team members on the screen at one time. I know that's not everybody. Don't be shy. Let's keep them coming, people.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, we were doing something else. What was your question?
I just want to see everybody's face on screen.
Okay, sorry about that.
Not necessarily Dave's face, but.
Yeah. Got it anyway.
Kidding. Got everybody? All right. Let's have some exceeding brief critique from, let's start with Mr. Miliaccio, I suppose, and we'll move through the crew.
Okay, hi, my name is Dave Miliaccio. I practiced law for 43 years, including a litigation practice and an appellate practice. And I have been involved with mock trial for almost 20 years as a coach for several different schools and also as a coordinator for the Southern Regional. First of all, let me just tell you guys, you are all to be really highly commended for the fact that you competed in this. An awful lot of schools, including the one I was coaching, tried to put together teams and couldn't get them to competition. The fact that you got to this competition and competed effectively is greatly to your credit. And I really hope you guys had fun. I hope you continue to do this because, as I think you know by now, this program has so many benefits. I've got a bunch of notes here. And I don't want to, I'm not going to, try to single out a lot of people. Let me just tell you that most of what I wrote here is good. So you guys did really well. Now there's the purpose for this competition is to try and establish the teams that are going forward to state. So it is possible that either or both of you guys will be going forward to state. And so with that, let me just give you a couple of things that you might need if you go forward to state. First of all, this is a skills competition. Oh, by the way, let me start with the good. The good is most of the direct examinations were nice. There were conversations between the attorney and the witness. That was really good. That, I got that, I really got that flavor. The cross-examinations, you guys stuck to the leading questions. You did a really good job there. So a couple of things. It's a skills competition, and some of the skills include redirect and voir dire of experts. So even if you know the expert's going to be qualified as an expert, find something that isn't there, something under Rule 702 that isn't there, and ask them, you don't have any publications in this area, or you don't have this education or something like that. And then it's okay to just look at them and say, we have no objection to the witness being qualified as an expert. That's okay. Redirect the same way. Just a couple of things. The reason for doing a redirect is because, first of all, it's part of a skill, but also it's the last word, okay? One other thing that I saw, Matai, you did a really good job, but then you objected to beyond the scope, the cross-examination beyond the scope of direct. If you look at Rule 611, you will see that cross-examination for purposes of this competition can be beyond the scope of direct. Reason is because you're using their witnesses as well as your witnesses. Really and truly, for the most part, really, it was an enjoyable presentation. You guys did really well, and I really hope you guys go on. But again, congratulations to all of you for being here. Woody Allen said 80% of success is showing up, and you guys showed up. Well done, and thank you.
You, Ms. Smith, do you have some words for us?
I actually didn't think I was going to be able to speak, but I'm happy to. I just want to say congrats to all of you guys. You guys did an amazing job. I go to UCCS right now, and we're getting ready to prepare for our mock trial at the end of February. And you guys did so good. I'm so proud of you guys. Just really quickly, I loved both opening statements. The one that kind of stuck out to me was unbiased sloppy claims. So that was really good with the theme and theory for that one. Directs were really good. I would like to see a little bit more of the redirects. Like David said, it is a good skill to have because it's the last word. You never want your opposing counsel to kind of have a gotcha moment with your witness. So you kind of want to be like, oh, well, I think what it's called is rehabilitation. So you want to rehabilitate your witness. So you don't want your witness to end off on something. You don't want the opposing counsel to end off on something bad on your witness. You don't want them to have the last word of looking bad. Let's see, what else do I have? Oh, and just the last, I guess, nitpicky thing is objections. I feel like there were some at some points that you, on both sides, should have objected to some things, but you guys are in high school, so it doesn't really matter. You guys are having fun, and that's really what is important about mock trial, is having fun. And play into your characters a little bit more. Get some emotion, get some dramatices going, like the doctors, have them sound all smart and snooty. Like, if I was an expert, obviously I'm an expert in that field, so I know what I'm talking about. So you never want the opposing counsel to make it sound like they're trying to discredit you. You've gone to school for this. You've paid thousands of dollars for this certification. You've paid thousands of dollars for this PhD. Make it sound like you know what you're talking about. And then the witnesses, just a little bit of emotion. I know you guys were reading, that's perfectly fine. Just add a little bit of emotion. Like if, like for Dakota, as an example, you lost your ability to play piano. That's something you're passionate about. Obviously, you would be devastated about that. So that's really it. You guys did a great job. So good job.
Now it's my turn. Okay. Let me tell you one thing. I participate in this program for two reasons. One is because it's just great fun, and I hope you have some of that too. The other is because it gives me hope, because it's easy to get a little cynical. I am, of course, not cynical in any way whatsoever, but if I were, I would still say, you folks are quite astounding. So I admire the courage, I admire the skill, and the dedication, because I know it's work. Speaking of work, I think, difficult though it may be, not reading from notes is, it will put your performance one level up from where it already is. It is hard. It is scary. It requires lots of practice and rehearsing, but it will level you up. I could see some more objections. I think that, as Dave says, there were a lot more opportunities for that. And when you don't do that, people like, some of us have been trying cases for decades. And so we see objections that aren't being made. But even somebody who's a civilian who comes in here and watches this won't understand that an objection should have been made, but will understand that when it is made, the scoring can be increased according to how that objection is handled on both sides. So talk to your coaches about that, but I think there's some opportunity to pick up some points there. Watch your genders. I understand that in the modern age, gender is fluid. Nevertheless, if you've got a female witness, it's a she, or I guess a they, if we're absolutely correct. And if it's a male witness, it's a he or a they. So be careful about that because sometimes that gets lost. Most of the cross was, in fact, as Dave said, leading questions, but some of it was not. And of course, you know, you get your wrist slapped if you don't lead the witness. Because a good witness at that point will just take the opportunity to eat your lunch. So if you are a witness who is asked an open question, a non-leading question, feel free to just launch, just take off and say what it is you want to say. And that is the slap on the wrist. So let me round up these remarks by saying once again, it's quite extraordinary what you do. I am impressed, and I am not that easily impressed. So well done, all of you. And I think at this point, we can sign off. Mr. Downey has come on and he's going to tell us whether we can sign off or not.
I want all the scoring panelists to remain on. All the students can sign off. Congratulations to all of you. I heard some of David's comments, Mr. Migliaccio, about it just being a huge hurdle for you to even be here. And I hope you heard in some of the scoring panelist statements also, you know, this is a serious event, but you need to make sure you're having fun. And I think you guys had fun, and we hope you had fun. And we will be sending an email to your coaches shortly, indicating a time that we will have you get into the lounge area for the volunteers, where we can make some announcements about the teams that are going forward and some of the best attorney and best witnesses awards. So stick around and look forward to doing that. But you can all sign off now. And if the scoring panelists could remain so that I can speak to them for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.